Hi everybody. The first set of questions comes from Alicia Maxwell. How do I start working on the mission field, and how did you start working on the mission field? These are great questions. It really is a journey, and every journey is so different, just as different as everybody's fingerprints. Our missionary journey started by getting ourselves moved and planted into a mission-based church. It was a 2-hour drive south of where we grew up, both my husband and I, and we just felt that that's where God had us to start. Spent a couple years in that church. Then we started looking for a mission school. This is after my husband completed his university degree, business and marketing, and so proud of him. Yay, Deron. So we started looking for a mission school to get trained in missions, and we narrowed it down to a school in Sweden and a school in Tulsa. We chose the school in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Spent a year just classes and working our butts off, to tell you the truth, doing very odd jobs, just getting ourselves through school, and all the while communicating with people what our plans were, what our desires were, what our dreams were, and asking them to participate. We had people who would financially support us during this time, and it helped get us through as well, on top of all the jobs and the work studies and the scholarships that we got to be able to go to mission school. After that, we spent a year in Santa Cruz as interns with an associate missionary who was connected to this church and this mission school in Tulsa. And that's basically how we got started. Question 3 and 4, also from Alicia, go together as well. How do I pack up my family and move somewhere and not have any income? How do you support yourselves? Okay, this is just nitty-gritty, bare bones mission stuff. The short answer is by faith. Anything we do is by faith. There is no higher way to live than by faith. And I usually share the story of my lists. When we were still in mission school and they're teaching us how to write missions letters and appeal letters and how to talk to people, we were instructed to place our contacts in 3 different lists: the A list, the B list, the C list. C are just, probably never going to give financially but need to be informed of what's going on. B are people who were most likely going to give, and A list of people who have already given or participated in some way. And so we were dividing, putting addresses and whatnot, and I was sitting there doing database entry and all this, and I felt like God spoke to my heart, and He said, I am your only list. And I was working, and I was like, yeah, God, you're at the top of our A list. Top of our A list, that's where you are, God. And I felt like He repeated Himself, which kind of embarrassing that God has to repeat Himself to you, but I felt like He repeated Himself and said, no, I am your only list. You don't know how many times I've come back to that truth, that He is my only source. God is my only source, and He provides in any way that He sees fit if I will put my trust in Him. The scripture says, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So if I put my heart in God and I put my heart in what He has for me to do, that's where my treasure is going to be found. And that's where I'm going to be able to have my provision for whatever He wants me to do. Whether it be through tent making, working jobs, donations from people, discounts, tax breaks, any way that He wants to provide for me, I am open to that. And so I trust Him as my provision. And you just do it by faith. These next set of questions comes from my sister, Shawn Smith. Question 5 and 6 go together. They are, when you started 10 years ago, did you have an idea where you wanted to be at this point? And 6, of course, is, did you accomplish that? Short answers, yes and yes. Deron and I, my husband Deron and I, can show you stacks and stacks of notebooks just scribbled full of plans and timelines and dreams and projects and things we wanted to do. Number 7 is, how would you describe your role in Christ Nation Ministries? I'm a support role. I do whatever needs to be done. I teach, I proofread, I edit, I mentor, Whatever needs to be done. 8 also comes from my sister, and she says, if the now you could talk to the then you, what would you say? Great question. Took me a while to think. I had to back away and think about the answer to this. If the now me was sitting down with the then me, I would sit down and just say, you know what, just keep going. You're doing great. Just stick with it. Keep up the good work. Lots of encouragement I would give more than anything, just to not give up and just keep going. And the final question from my sister is, how do you fight against burnout? Biggest advice I can give is to listen to your body and respond correctly. Get enough rest, drink enough water, eat well, exercise. Those are all so important, but in all the busyness, I think we forget about doing that and think that it's not that important. Another thing I would say is to be sure to have outlets, things that you do that are fun. Just have fun. I like to read and write and go out with my friends, watch my shows, things like that. Another thing that helps us dramatically here, I think, is the dates that we take. Duran and I, we have dates throughout the week where we're going out, just spending time together, talking, processing, enjoying each other, enjoying the city, eating good food, and doing fun stuff. And I think these are all important things for fighting against a sense of burnout or exhaustion or overworking. Also, feel free to tell yourself, I am enough, I have enough, and I do enough. That's a kind of a mantra that I have to repeat to myself sometimes. Okay, next question comes from Karen Guthrie, my dear missionary friend right here in Bolivia. She says, how does one make it to 10 years on the mission field? Really, it's by the grace of God. I don't know how else to explain it. Maybe it's the decision as well. It's knowing what kind of missionary you are. Maybe you're not a full-time missionary. Maybe you're only a short-term missionary. You'll stay for 5 years and then move on to the next part of your life. But if you know that you're going to be a full-time missionary, decide. If this is going to be your career for your life, you decide. Just like when you get married or when you have kids, it's not, well, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. You know, I am married and I'm going to stay married. That's my decision. I am a parent. I will remain a parent. That is my decision. I am a full-time, life-term missionary. That is my decision. And that kind of helps, I guess, maybe. Also, another thing that came to mind as I was thinking about the answer to this question is the scriptures that you find in Hebrews 11, the Faith Hall of Fame, all these great men and women of God who did fabulous things. The last 2 verses are just shocking to me and encouraging because it helps me see that my little life is just a part of the huge picture. And that helps me to keep going. The verses say, verse 39 and 40 of Hebrews chapter 11, the last 2 verses say, these were all commended for their faith, yet none of them received what had been promised, since God had planned something better for us, so that only together with us would they be made perfect. Everything Abraham, Moses, Ruth, Mary, all those Bible heroes, everything they did connects to what I'm doing. And if all this millennia can connect together in God's great plan, that gives me a sense of longevity and purpose and tenacity that, you know what, I can do this. This is going to happen, and it's by the grace of God. Last few questions come from my friend Birgit Whelan. She is an online friend of mine, and the first one she asked, it's question number 11 actually, is the thing you love most about living in Bolivia. I think what I like most about living in Bolivia is the perspective that I gain. Yeah, perspective about the world, the way things work. She also asked, if you could be anywhere else in the world doing anything else, where would you be and what would you be doing? And that was a hard question. It would mean that Bolivia is completely obliterated from the face of the earth. It means that it does not exist. First, short term. Short term, if I was doing something else, anything else in the world, I would take a trip around the world. I would just go travel and see everywhere that I've ever wanted to see in my whole life, and just travel, travel, travel. But if it were a question regarding career, like what would you do with your career, with your life? She says anything else, which means eliminating missions, which, I mean, I guess this is kind of cheating, but I would probably volunteer in a social aid project in Asia or something like that. I guess it's in my blood. I can't imagine myself doing anything else but helping people. So I'd be helping people somewhere. Number 13 is, do you feel you may ever do missionary work in another time in your lives? Somewhere else, like somewhere else. We used to. We really did. That's one of the things that we had in our hearts, maybe, in the beginning. Those are our birds walking. Sorry. Our little parrots. But now, not so much. Not so much. I think Bolivia is in a big enough fight to chew. And finally, question number 14 also comes from Birgit, and she says, favorite way to have your coffee? I love this question. What I love, actually, it might surprise you to know that one of my favorite things about coffee is its versatility. You can have it hot or cold. You can have it flavored or black. You can have it with friends or on your own. And you can have coffee beans covered in chocolate. Those are good too. I just really love the versatility and the variety.